Halloween time's upon us all, and I hope you're ready for quite a long first time for Halloween treat. There's so much to see and do. I'm sure it won't scare you, but Jesus, there's a lot of critters to eat.
A monster right there, a gremlin in there, a clown over there, a blob over there, a killer in there, a dipshit right there.
The ghosts are flying in the night, the wolves have got you in their sight, the zombies are looking for a bite. So grab yourself a tasty snack, pull up a chair, and sit right back for it's time for a Halloween treat. It's South Jersey Sam's Halloween treat.
Hello folks, I'm South Jersey Sam, and happy Halloween to everyone. You know, when it comes to Halloween, there's always one story that people tell during the season, and out of all of them is the classic story by Washington Irving, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Written and published in 1820, the story tells of a schoolteacher named Ichabod Crane who arrives into the town of Sleepy Hollow and meets the lovely Katrina Van Tassel and the town bully, Brom Bones. And things get interesting when we are given the tale of the Headless Horseman, a spirit who roams the town at night in search for his missing head, even if it's not his own. The story has been a classic for generations, which would later give way for movies and TV special adaptations. The most notable and memorable adaptation would be from Disney's Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, with Bing Crosby's narration and singing to tell the story. Not to mention the most memorable chase sequence between Ichabod and the Horseman in the final act. However, there have been other adaptations that were more loosely based than others. A prime example would be Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow, which took Irving's story and took several changes between the characters and the storyline. In fact, some people thought it played out similar to a Hammer horror film, and in a way, I agree with them. To Burton's credit, he changed it to make the adaptation more unique, and it worked. It's one of his best movies next to other classics like Beetlejuice and Nightmare Before Christmas. However, when it comes to adaptations, there are some that people barely talk about, whether they prefer not to bring it up or vaguely remember anything about it. And that's where Night of the Headless Horseman comes in. If you haven't heard of this special, don't be surprised. It's a rare special that hasn't been re-released onto any other format aside from VHS. And as you can see from the lackluster animation, it gives an obvious reason why it hasn't been re-aired on TV. But does it deserve the wrath of harsh criticism? Not really. It's actually a pretty decent special. The only problem is that people might complain about how it came out around the same time as Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow, and they would believe the special tried to compete against the film. Well, they're most definitely wrong, since Night of the Headless Horseman came out October 28th, 1999, whereas Sleepy Hollow came out November 19th, 1999. And as far as competition goes, Sleepy Hollow, as I said earlier, changed the story completely, but still kept the original characters, while Night of the Headless Horseman was meant to be a direct adaptation with a few tweaks added into the story. Another thing to note is that this special is done entirely with motion capture animation. This was around the time when computer animation was becoming very popular, but still had some issues. Of course, Pixar was on top of the world with their animated features, but that was where computer animation was really at its peak. Anything outside of it, like commercials or TV shows, were still a tad rusty. And some people will probably have an issue with this special, since the character models aren't exactly perfect, and some of the motion is kinda hokey. But if you get past those issues, the special is actually pretty decent, especially with the dark approach that begins with the opening titles and action sequence. We see a man being chased by the Headless Horseman, which seems to have gone on for quite some time since we hear him breathe heavily. The relentlessness of the Headless Horseman is an interesting side that we rarely see in other adaptations. But the Horseman even has some tricks up his sleeve, like how he vanishes during the sequence, giving the victim a sense of false hope. And once he is resting by the mill, we see the Horseman without his horse and ready to attack. It's almost like a slasher film, but has more suspense to it. The fact that this ghostly figure is able to attack you even at your most vulnerable moment is pretty clever. And as you can see, it's a rather gruesome special, spared no expense for bloody moments like this. What's also interesting is how the special is presented, as it is told by a tale teller who is telling this to Washington Irving, the author of the book. Not necessarily the best idea or the most original, but I can let it slip. The voices of the main characters are supplied by celebrities, most notably William H. Macy as Ichabod, Tia Carrere as Katrina, Clancy Brown as the tale teller and the Headless Horseman, and Luke Perry as Brom Bones. Yeah, out of all the cast members in the special, especially the various voice actors, Luke Perry is the odd one out.
Oh, but Katrina, see here now. You know my sun rises and my moon sets on you.
I get that he's got the voice for it, but not exactly the best acting for it. Considering how they have the script played out within the time period, Mr. Beverly Hills 90210 isn't exactly 1800s material.
Sniffing around with that great bloodhound nose of his. If the schoolmaster continues, he will find that nose caught. And with the rest of him, crushed.
Now, despite the rusty computer graphics, the details in some of the scenes are well made, to say the least. There is a nice autumn atmosphere, the visuals within the dark and creepy locations look fantastic, and some of the motion capture is decent when done the right way. One example is the dance sequence between Katrina and Ichabod. The choreography has a good sense of fluidity as it goes on. No glitches or issues whatsoever. What's also great about the motion capture is that they used real horses to simulate each movement required in different scenes, from slow horse walks to the chase sequences involving the Headless Horseman. They captured those sequences at the Medieval Times show in Dallas, Texas. Certainly impressive with the amount of work they had to put into this special. The one thing I think is worth mentioning is the twist ending, which follows up a plot point midway into the special. So, since there will be major spoilers, you might want to skip to this spot right about now. During the special, Brom talks to his friend about a plan to get rid of Ichabod, which gives him the desperate attempt to bargain with the Headless Horseman. An interesting less is more aspect, even though it's a ridiculous idea. After we hear Brom's story of the horseman during the Halloween party, we get to Ichabod's journey homeward, which leads to his imminent demise. The narrator tells us that after Ichabod's disappearance, Brom eventually married Katrina for 32 years. But after she passed away, he would end up fulfilling his end of the bargain, which leads to our plot twist, and a rather interesting twist too.
A wonderful tale. I only wish there was some truth to it. But of course, in the reassuring ordinariness of the real world, why, there is no Headless Horseman after all.
Did I say that? Didn't I say Brom had to pay a price? To take the horseman's place? Now I wonder if you could do me a favor. They won't let me keep this head. Hold on to it for me while I go in search of another one, won't you? No!
Oh, holy shit. Now, this may not have been the best plot twist, but it certainly was pretty good in my opinion. As far as a TV special based on Irving's classic story, it's close to being a good interpretation, but not as memorable as Disney's or Tim Burton's. But that's not to say it's bad, believe me, there are worse ones out there. The motion capture has its ups and downs, but at the time we had what we had. Nowadays you get motion capture in everything, from movies to video games, and most of the time it's flawless. But when it came to motion capture based projects, most notably films by Robert Zemeckis, it can be very fickle depending on how it's executed. So for this special, I give it a special rating of 3.5 pumpkin bombs out of 5. For the effort. So, if you're interested in a semi-nostalgic Halloween special based on the Sleepy Hollow story, I'd say give it a shot. It's certainly worth a watch. For now, I'm South Jersey Sam, and I wish I had more time for a better Halloween episode. See you next time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, as well as Channel Frederator and Cartoon Hangover. Also, visit me and Channel Frederator on Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. Just click on the annotations. And for more of my videos, visit me on Mr. Coat and Friends, which is thatfellowinthecoat.com. Booyah!